2010 marks the 75th anniversary of the BFI National Archive, and one of the events which we've staged to celebrate that is called BFI Most Wanted, and this is a search for 75 films, one for each of our years, which we would like to bring into the archive. These are British films which are not being preserved by the archive, and films that we would like to see kept and made available for people to watch. We've built a website with this list. Every title has been researched by BFI staff members, and we've included as many stills and press books for the titles that we can. So they build up a very detailed picture of what the film would have been like without actually seeing it. The BFI itself did a project back in 1992 which was called Missing, Believed, Lost, and that was a book published with 100 titles which the BFI was looking for at the time. And the project was successful. We turned up 16 of those films. These include 2 Walter Ford early comedies, Bed and Breakfast and Lord Babs. And these films came into us in negative form back in 1993 and have never actually been printed up until this year. So this is the first time these films have been seen on a big screen since they were originally released in the early 1930s. There are several titles which have remained in both lists. I mean, the big title that everyone would like to find is Hitchcock's second feature, The Mountain Eagle, made in 1926. We might be a little bit optimistic, hoping that one particular one will turn up. And by all accounts, it's not the greatest movie ever made. But of course, if a great artist did a sketch on a table napkin, you would still want to keep that sketch. So, you know, Hitchcock's early work is important in showing us the development of his skill. The other big director probably on the list is Michael Powell. Throughout the 1930s, Powell made a huge number of what we call quota quickies, which were films made to fulfil the quota of British films which had to be shown on British screens. And they were low budget, they were made on a very tight schedule, but again, they show the development of his craft, and we have 3 of those titles on the list.
When you have a case of a film not existing, the material that we have represented in paper form has a whole other kind of meaning and purpose. You can use it to create a sort of picture of what a film might have been like, to fill in gaps if things only exist in partial form. For some of the titles, we don't have any materials at all, so in which case I'd like to sort of extend the plea to find these films to also for people to keep an eye out for old scripts or publicity materials, things that turn up in collectors' fairs, might have been residing in somebody's attic for a very long time. All of this kind of documentation is really important to us. For other films, we do have things like press campaign books or a script. So, for example, for the early Sherlock Holmes adaptation, A Study in Scarlet, we have a beautiful press campaign book which has a very detailed synopsis of the film, as well as lots of stills, production stills from the film. And it gives a very detailed description of the story. Obviously, we have Conan Doyle's original to know what A Study in Scarlet was about, but this is really interesting because you can see the way in which the screenwriters have reworked the story. They've changed the order of some of the events around to make it, to adapt it for cinema. So it gives you a slightly different slant on what a film might be like. If you had been just basing it on the original story, you probably wouldn't have a full picture. Things like trade journals are also very useful, partly for the reviews that they contain, sometimes again with an image from the film, and also for the way in which they advertised the films. Producers and distributors would take out often large page adverts. So, for example, for Maurice Elvey's Maria Martin, which was 1913, there's a large advert which proclaims rather proudly that the film was shot on the location in which the actual murders happened, which is a lovely morbid touch, but real authenticity there. The BFI Stills collection has been immensely important in this project. As part of the sort of process of researching the 75 titles, we've been pulling each of the files for every title represented and having a look to see what's there, scanning as much of it as possible to put up on the website.
The earlier project covered silent films, but stopped at 1945. And this time around we've decided to again focus more heavily on silent films because so many of them are lost and so many of them are very important to our national film heritage, but then to extend the list, and we've gone right up to 1983 this time around with a film, the final film on the list is Where is Parsifal from 1983. It's a film that is circulating on DVD in some places, but it's a film that we'd very much like to see some original film material and get that preserved in the archive. It's got a fantastic cast, Orson Welles, Tony Curtis, and it's quite often surprising that a film that high profile could go missing. But it just goes to illustrate that films go missing for many different reasons. Sometimes production companies destroy prints of films when they're remaking a film. Production companies and facilities houses and storage facilities, they go out of business, receivers come in, and they tend to throw everything onto a skip. They don't really have a concept of the value of film. It's not only early films that can go missing, it has happened throughout the 20th century, and certain titles have become hard to find. So really this is just a call to collectors and other archives and just members of the public to look around, and if they see a can of film, to give us a call.